I am the head of communications for Let's Do It World and World Cleanup Day. And I have been involved with the organization, let's say, at least in my heart, I've been involved ever since the beginning. But practically, I started working together with the Let's Do It World since 2017, 2018 for the first World Cleanup Day. And from the beginning of last year, 2020, I decided to join full time. And by full time means that I haven't had any vacations, days off, and I usually work 16 hours a day. But it's been a lot of fun. So let's see how long I can go on. So I'm really happy to see all of you here today, and we'll be talking about theory of change today. And we won't just talk about it, we'll actually put it into action immediately, because I believe the best way to learn is to learn by doing. Now, it won't be a very serious business. You'll see what I mean by that in a few minutes, because we'll be just playing through. So you have something in your toolkit that you can utilize in the future. And you can put to use. There are lots of, it seems to be that there's a lot of so-called freeware information about it on the internet. So if you just Google theory of change, how to do a theory of change or how to execute it, or give me examples, there are plenty on the internet, because it's a very preferred tool for lots of NGOs. I'd like to know, I don't know how I can see this, I'll put gallery view on, and show me, make me a sign if you know what a theory of change is. Okay, Belmer knows, yeah, okay, Elin knows.
Is it what is sometimes called transformation theory?
No, it's actually I haven't ever heard about it being a transformation theory. There might be something else. I have to Google that. But theory of change is a tool. It is a method. So it's not actually a theory, but because it has to do with social change, it is referred to as theory, because it's very, it's practical at the same time. It's theoretical because we're trying to create a social change. So, but there are ways to measure it. So it's also an actual tool that you can use. But if we would put it in a definition, then theory of change describes how we believe that we can make some sort of a change happen in society. So it's about these big long-term goals, big processes, and how do we actually reach that thing. So what makes me an expert on this? This badge makes me an expert. It says I'm a scientist. And that's why. No, but I'm kidding. I am an anthropologist by training, and I've taught theory of change before, because I fell in love with it the first time I had the opportunity to try it out, because I believe in structure. I believe that you have to have a roadmap, that you can always modify your roadmap, but you always should have a roadmap, and there's not much you can do based on intuition alone. So I'll start sharing my screen, and let's get into it a little bit. So if you would be so kind and write into the chat, what is your why? I'd really love to know, what is it that makes you do things for the universe, for the planet, for your community? What is it? What is your big goal that gets you out of the bed every morning and makes you do this very hard unpaid work? And really love to see what is it that you engage with. So I already tried to explain what a theory of change is, but I actually do believe that it's much easier to understand when you see one. Why should you bother? There's a very big question that I think every NGO, everyone who has a big mission has to ask themselves, is that, are you driven by the hope that you will change something? Or do you go after very specific targets that you know will lead to that change? Of course, there's never 100% knowledge, but when you're actually doing the journey, You can already start guessing whether something is working or not. And very often I see that NGOs, especially, or people with mission, they do things out of the hope that something changes. So essentially, even a cleanup, just a simple cleanup, is just doing in the hopes that something will change. So I believe that in order to actually inflict change, you need to know why you're doing it. What is it that you're doing and why you're doing it? And then you will also learn how you will do it. This comes out of the process. How do you make that social change actually happen? So if we move a little bit to the right, this is how we usually do stuff. We wake up in the morning, then we brush our teeth, then we eat breakfast, then we go to work, then we come home, watch telly, then we go to sleep. This is the way that we are very much geared towards to think. This is our habitual way of thinking. First I will do this, then I will do that, then I will do that, then I will do that, and then maybe something will happen. But if we're talking about big social change, this is rarely the case, that you just figure it out while you go. You will just exhaust your energy, you will exhaust your resources. So it would be much, much better if you would first settle, what do you want to change and how do you get there even before you start going. Obviously, lots of NGOs have been in business for years and they think, oh, but then why should I bother with this theory of change? I already have some experience. I've seen that some things work. I've seen that some things don't work, and you're still operating in the hope frame, let's put it this way, and you're hoping that the change will happen. But I've seen also that those organizations, regardless of what their goal is, if they have a big plan, they are much more successful at it, because what happens when you actually put the core, the structure into place earlier, is that you can actually start measuring whether your actions have an impact or not. So now we're going to just try and switch this mindset with theory of change. So how do we have a big idea. Well, Cleanup Day wants to have a waste-free, healthy world, clean world. How do we do that? That seems like something impossible to achieve. Yet, this is our theory of change. And I've put this backwards. So if we zoom in, we have all these layers, but they're all backwards. I'll turn it around afterwards. Because theory of change, what it does is that you start mapping out what you have to do, but you do it in reverse. You start from your goal and then you move backwards. What are exactly the steps that you need to take? What are the outcomes of your activities? Change, all of it is seen from that perspective. And I'll turn this now around, because I hope, let's see if I can do this while I'm sharing my screen. Here it is. This is our 2020 theory of change. When we zoom into a theory of change, it has its levels, and generally we can divide the levels into 4. We have a little bit more, but you'll see in a second as well. So here in the center, we have our vision. Our vision is a clean and healthy, waste-free world. And we achieve this, through this, we achieve the impact. Those are the United Nations SDGs. I won't go into those, and these are not necessary for a theory of change to be valid. But we've added them here because we are committed to the United Nations SDGs. So those are Sustainable Development Goals, if you haven't heard of them before. And we really want to be very visual and also loud about it, that these are the things that we hope to have impact on through our theory of change, through what we do. And if we go further, then below the vision, we have an outcome layer. An outcome layer is, what are the changes in society that have happened in order for the vision to be true? So these are the ways that these are the statements through which we measure. So what does a clean and healthy, waste-free world mean? What does it mean in reality? So we have put here that people have adopted sustainable consumption and living habits, businesses have implemented circular and regenerative business models, and governments have put in place all the legislative necessities for it to happen. And this would create a clean and healthy, waste-free world. I won't go further into this because it's not really necessary. I want to just show it to you before we embark on our own mission. But when we go lower here, we also have outputs. What does it actually mean that governments, or what is necessary for governments to put the implementation and legislation into action? For instance, people need to vote for green ideas and parties for this to happen, to force governments to actually put these legislative measures into action. And businesses need to know what they're doing. They need to understand what circular economy means and what is zero waste and how can they implement it in their own day-to-day business. And of course, people are aware of waste problem, that they have the tools to live a zero waste life, etc. And these in the red are actually the activities that we as organization can do to make these things happen. And this is the basis. So a lot of the times we see that NGOs start with the activities. We can do this and we can do that, but they haven't really thought through how that process leads through the upper levels to their goal. So that's the idea of the theory of change. Now, who is the person who should do the theory of change? Like if you're an NGO, who should be the one doing it? You. It's you and a lot of your friends that have competencies in something. When you put together an actual team to create theory of change, you should, besides the fact that you look into literature and articles and know-how, you should also have people who have some sort of experience in your field. But it's also very useful to bring in people who don't have the same experience as you do or your NGO does. People from finances, people from some kind of political entity, someone who can give you insight on how things change, how do you make them change, etc. So you know how to plan your resources better. And this actually gives you a good framework as well that supports you, because as we all know, we have very limited resources, each and every one of us, either in time or in physical force to actually, change things in the world. And it's hard work changing the world. And in order to save yourself the most and make sure that your NGO, your organization has the strength to carry it through, this is a phase where you would actually include a lot of experts in very many different fields that can help you make this plan happen. And today, we are going to pretend, all of us, that we are experts. Our goal today is to play it through to help you understand how it works. And so we're going to pretend that we are the experts, that we're here together, and we're actually going to create the theory of change. So did you guys write? Sorry?
Ingrid, may I interrupt you with
Sure,
a
go ahead.
very motivating speech? There are two comments in the chat. Do you see them? Or
no, I don't see any of the chat. So
yeah, exactly. That's why I was wondering. Just one is a very quick question. Is it possible to share it's not the PowerPoint, but the slides or the presentation?
I can convert them into slides afterwards and I can share them with you. I never, maybe with some remarks as well, because if you get only this little section here, you won't remember what was it about. But I will definitely put the most important things here, and we can start working together. So you've seen what the theory of, second question was there as well, right?
Yeah. I mean, commenting, so far the presentation has been so lively that people also remember from this visuals probably.
That's very good.
And anyway, and just another person just shared there why as well.
That's great, because I'm going to close the screen sharing for just a moment, because I want to see whether you wrote down your whys. So okay, PowerPoint. Okay, positive change. But what is it that you want to change in the world? What is the why? What makes you volunteer? And Oh, that's a very good. Oh, Carl has such questions that we could already just, bring out our beers and have a very philosophical conversation here. Okay, so behavior that we don't have to do cleanups. If everyone is okay here, we could actually agree that this is today our big why. Why are we doing? So we want to change people's behavior. So essentially we want a clean world, but let's put it a little bit smaller. And let's say we want people to stop littering. Shall we agree this is our big why today? And that's what we'll figure out how we can change that, okay? All right, so I can see a lot of nodding. You can also turn on your microphones and talk.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
So it's not that many people here, so it's fine if we also talk.
It would be
And
much
I
more
love this.
simple,
Jasmine says that
actually,
she's here.
yeah.
Animal kingdoms, our earth is beautiful. Absolutely. So I'll share the screen again. I won't see the chat. So if there are any questions, if Elena could then share them with me. Okay, so let's start with the theory of change. Okay, so we'll go. I just have to scroll here, and I prepared us this little beautiful thing that we'll have to fill in throughout this. So as you can see, usually this work is done. Let me see if I put the photograph here. Yeah, I can show you first. I'll show you how we didn't create our theory of change. Our theory of change has existed since 2 years, but we reviewed it this year in November. So here you can see the core group of Let's Do It World. We went over each and every point in our theory of change, and we actually modified it, and quite significantly. It was also based on all the feedback that we have received. So usually you would do it with Post-its, and that's why we're in Miro today, because it sort of resembles Post-its. So we have here 4 layers. We have our big vision as the highest one, and then there's the outcome, there's the output, and there are the activities. I will explain each of these again, but let's just start moving instead of explaining it. There will be someone who doesn't understand. Let's put it into practice, because you will be able to see that it actually comes out even if you don't understand what you're doing exactly. So we agreed, I saw Mauro nodding very actively earlier, that our big important vision that we are going to change in the world or in your community, it always is very helpful if you first think of your own community and don't think globally immediately. So you act locally, but wait, how was it? You think globally, but you act locally, but you can also think locally and act globally. But today, if you're doing any of the exercises with us, then just try to think on your local level, because everything starts with us ourselves. So our big important vision is that people don't litter. This is a very good starting point for it. Actually, I'll make this bold as well. This is our vision. This is what we want to achieve. And now in the...
What about saying it in a positive way?
Sorry?
What about saying it in a positive way? Like
that people... So how would you say it in a positive way?
People keep the world clean, or their environment clean.
Mm-hmm. But then you would have to say, what is clean? Is clean washed clean, or is clean clean of litter, or is
Let's say healthy.
Health? What is healthy? Is it? Are we talking about pollution? So sometimes it's very difficult when we go into these really big terms, like people keep clean. Then you would have to define what does that clean mean. So maybe this is a little bit out of our scope. I do believe in positivity, but maybe it doesn't help us tonight. So this is a very specific thing that was brought out. It's a behavioral thing. People don't litter. It's a very, very precise goal that we can have. So let's see, how can we make the world people don't litter? In the world, people don't litter ever. So, oh, my grammar.
Hey, Ingrid, one other thought might be to have, ask people to pick up litter that they see. So there's a, kind of the negative of people don't litter, but the positive of they do pick up litter when they see it. That would be not only on a yearly basis with World Cleanup Day, but also
Yeah.
on a daily basis through plugging or crash tag or whatever.
Absolutely, absolutely. There are many activities. So I think we'll get to that in a short while. I'll just now shortly explain what does the outcome go. Now we're going to tackle this level over here. So what is the outcome? It's, if you look at it this way, it can be really confusing. What activity, output, outcome, what? I don't understand anything. But essentially what outcome means is what needs to have been achieved in society for the vision to be true. So for instance, in a recent workshop that I did on theory of change, we talked about how do you stop bullying. So people were like, okay, so in order for people to stop bullying each other, not just children, but adults as well, one of the outcomes was that everyone is nice to each other, you know, that we have created such a framework that there is no negative, not no, but let's say there is a much kinder environment for people to live in. That kindness is the core. So this was sort of like an outcome that the whole theory of change was after, in order to make sure that the bullying stops. So the second question is, and I'd really love if everyone would take a look at this and sort of either screenshot it or write it down, because now I will divide you into groups and you will get to discuss what needs to have changed in society, or what needs to have been achieved in society for it to be true that people don't litter. And now keep in mind, we're talking about the whole society. So what are the big things that need to have changed? We're not talking about activities right now. We're not talking about things that we have power over, but we're sort of like dreaming. What are the things that have changed in society so that the vision can be true? And the 3 groups that I'll divide you into, I'll also try and put it up in your group as well, the question. I try to send it to you so you can see it, is that you will be divided into 3 groups. One group will think what will need to have been changed in the private sector in order to make sure that people don't litter. The second group will go, what will have to be changed for individuals to make sure people don't litter? And the third group will answer the question, what will need to have changed in the public sector in order to make sure that people don't litter anymore? And I'll give each group, I think I can give easily 10 minutes for each of the groups so you can discuss it. Feel free to really, you don't need to be experts. You don't need to know anything about it. Just imagine, we're imagining things. So let's imagine world where people don't litter and what needs to have changed for that to happen. So stop screen share, and I promised I would send the questions to breakout rooms as well. So I'm gonna share screen again, and I'm going to ask one person from each group to summarize what you discussed, or bring out just a few points that we could fit into our theory of change. So we're gonna go back to our theory of change. And the group that talked about private sector, what is the condition that needs to have happened in private sector to make sure that people do not litter? What's your input? What did you discuss? What did you find out?
We didn't agree on that. Who will be the person to represent?
Oh, it doesn't matter who you started talking, so you can take it first.
Yeah, I believe so. So the first idea we had, it was that we were talking about the companies mostly as a private sector. So
yep.
We said that they should be a part of collecting the garbage and recycling as much as they can, but at the first place to use as less as it is possible for them, and to create as less of the garbage at the first place. So, and
because if you have less
companies
stuff,
and
if you have less stuff, then you would have less things to litter. So that is totally valid here.
The second thing is that each company in the private sector, for instance, should respect laws and obey the rules and regulations of the country where they work. For instance, if there's a limit the rule how to do something, they should respect that and be part of the solution, not the problem. And if as a private sector, they should be the one who are on the side of solution and helping the NGOs to clean and educate the personnel in the private sector and in general.
I really like the fact that you brought out helping NGOs to educate, because especially when we look at people don't litter, education is important. And why are we always talking about cleaning up after the corporations? They should be, first of all, you said producing less, being part of the solution. That means recycling up everything that is left as waste. Should be waste. There shouldn't be any waste. It should be recycled, right? And much less should be produced. But I think this is a great part. Help NGOs, or I would even put educational system or whatever here, schools, to educate, because companies are made out of human beings. So they definitely have to be part of it. And thank you very much for this. Now we'll
Ingrid,
go. Yes.
Ingrid, there is another comment in the chat as well.
Yep.
That maybe you can add. Is
because I can't see the chat, it's very hard to.
I will read it. The toxicological data of the companies would be public.
That is a very good one. So toxic, oops, sorry. How do I always have trouble with this once I come out of it. So toxicological reports are public. So that is a good
and
point.
there's another comment that integrate recycled products into their production coefficient goal to reach B companies.
Wow, that's a lot. Can you copy that for me, please? I want to read this later on. I won't write it down here because we don't want to overcomplicate this space, but I really love that. So,
let's do that.
So if you could just copy it and then send it to me afterwards, I would love it, because we're going to lose the chat. All right, so let's move on to the individuals. What needs to have happened for individuals for them to stop littering? Next group, who's the group? Who's the brave one from group number 2?
I can go. I'm just not entirely sure which one was the topic we were discussing, because we touched both on the private sector and on the individuals. But there just for the individuals, we were talking about the element of being proud to have a clean community, and that connected with maybe also the kind of a mindset in which it's immoral to litter, or on the flip side, where it's the moral behavior to keep it clean. So more on this
that's
kind
of very, very good points, and exactly what we're looking to write onto this post-it note. What are the really big systemic changes that have happened? So mindset is a very good point to bring out here. So there's like a moral imperative that you also pick up litter, right?
Yeah.
So because people make mistakes, so they will litter regardless at some point. So, all right, I like that very much. And let's move on to the governmental sector. What is it that needs to have changed in government level, to make sure that people don't litter? So who's the brave one from group number 3?
I think that's Carl.
But I would say that Steve brought up the best point. But I can try to no, maybe Steve, just say it. You said something about the government plan that goes up from each from each level of the government. I did not get it all.
So, yeah, I got it. I was there. So that the government has a big plan, right? Was it that way?
Correct.
Yeah, maybe I can add too that it's to have like government national plan based on state. So like, and then this plan is following by all the community and people. But I also want to share something that in Indonesia, for example, they have like government big plan for national, but it's not so impactful. But when World Cleanup Day do this, then where we integrate the system, it become more impactful, I can say.
So you need everyone to cooperate into that plan. So this absolutely goes on also under the activities, etc. Later on, we'll move that. So hold on to that, Agustina. I have a place for it on our theory of change as well. So government has a big plan. That's a good thing. So it has a plan to deal with litter. It has infrastructure put in place where people can put their waste, and it includes all of this. So I'll just put this in. This is what I picked up from infrastructure. And I think even there were mentioned like there are fines for littering. So, and it's also upheld in that case, not just that there are fines, but there is someone who follows through as well. All right, so we have about 30 minutes left. So now next round, I'm really gonna make sure that you only have 7 minutes, because we can't wait any longer. So we have the big things set. We have the private sector producing less, making sure that everything that they have produced goes into recycling, that the solutions like that actually are available, and that they are part of the solution, and maybe that they can also contribute to education, etc. We have people who are proud that they don't litter, that they have this kind of a mindset that it's immoral to litter, and when there actually is any litter, they pick it up. But that problem is already small because all the three sectors are supporting each other with either the infrastructure, policies, they have the solutions available, they're using the recycling, etc. So, but this is, as we all know, this is our dream. It hasn't happened yet. So let's see what leads to that outcome. So there's this output level, and the output level has to answer to the question, what are the changes that lead to the outcome? So what is it that makes sure that toxicological reports are public, that private sector helps NGOs or public educational system to educate people? What are the things that make sure that this thing in this sector actually happens? What are the big things? Not what you can do, but what are the things that are there? What kind of measures are there so that this happens? So like they are recycling, they are actually collecting the garbage themselves, and that they're recycling. So try to think of it in these terms. This is for the private sector. For the individuals, what kind of measures make sure that people are proud of their own community? What is it that makes them proud of community? How do you achieve it, that people are proud of their community? How do you achieve that mindset that it's immoral to litter? How do you do that? So this is the thing. What is it? Not the activity that you do, but what needs to have changed in society to make sure that people think that it's immoral to litter? We all know that right now in the world, it necessarily isn't so everywhere, that it's actually smaller communities maybe who have achieved this kind of a mindset. So try to think of it in these terms. And then in government level, try to think of it. So the government has a big plan, that national plan, it has infrastructure. Actually, I would actually highlight here infrastructure and the fines for littering, these kinds of, like, I would even say policies and infrastructure. I would put here policies and infrastructure. So they have achieved the policies and infrastructure to make sure that people don't litter. And you go a little bit deeper and you think, okay, so what are these policies like? And what is the infrastructure supposed to be like to make sure that people stop littering? So everyone clear? Sort of. I will pop into the room. If you need help, there's a help button somewhere as well, and I will pop in and I will get to you. So I'll stop share and I'll divide you up to rooms again. Breakout rooms. Open all rooms.
Yeah, I guess we're all back now.
Awesome. I already have the green share on. And in order to make sure that we actually are able to reach the end, group one, what are the things that need to be happened to make sure that private sector or companies are part of the solution?
So we said that at first they need to recycle, and we need to create efficient recycling system. For instance, in places or countries where we don't have those yet, and to create law which will regulate that. And for those who do not respect it, we need to have fines or
So
bans.
law regulates that, so that already includes fines. Yeah.
Yeah, fines and bans, and to promote and support those who do respect the.
That's a very good point, and I'm going to put this
green way
right here in the beginning. So they are supported in their actions. They are supported in change. I would put it this way. That's a good point. Good. Group number two.
Education, we also talked about that.
Oh, yeah. But let's try and keep this, because the more we have these, the more we would have to sort of like develop these ideas. But I think this is a good thing. So we have a efficient recycling system in place, and that means that the whole society has it, not just, you know, for bottles, but there's a whole system that supports that, right? Maybe we could even say that the private sector puts it into place. The private sector is in charge. So that's very good. I think this is a good point. So individuals, what makes, how do we make sure that people are proud of their community and that their mindset is that it's immoral to litter? Group number two.
Make it quick.
Claudia, thank you.
We said education would be a crucial point to have, like the awareness planted in the minds for the people, like going to schools and on various levels, and then brought into the families as well through that. And on the other hand, we said we could have something like a rating system where we have like an official display, maybe on your house, a bit like in some type of tourism. I think it's there's like certain ratings where it's very granular. It could be in a way that it's support, like kind of motivates people to behave in a beneficial way.
To behave better, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Did you come up with something else?
We had thought leaders as well to spread the message.
Ah, that's a great one, actually. Thought leaders. So
on every, like many different levels, could be like from a rabbi up to the TikTok influencer.
Very good, very good. I started speaking in Estonian. I'm so excited. So religious leaders, influencers, yada yada. So these are very good points. So you have a high education or awareness level. There's a rating system that motivates people to behave better, and the thought leaders are actually leading the change. So those are three very valid points. I'm super proud of that.
There's another comment. I guess it's related to this topic, and it's in the chat. It's integration of competitive spirit to motivate students.
So I think this could actually go somewhere here as well, as this is sort of about, so there's like a competitive side to it. Yeah. So I'll just write it down very briefly here. Okay, great. We have very good ideas here. I'm going to copy this afterwards into our theory of change. All right, so government level, the hardest sector to influence. So what would have to happen here in order to make sure that policies and infrastructure change?
Mauro, take it away.
I know they talked about married life. I caught them in action, so that's great. But now we want answers.
Who will talk? I think Mauro.
Mauro has storm. You have to take it there, Augustine.
Yeah, we took a vote that Mauro was going to do it.
I can too. I mean, like I can add one. Like one of that Mauro also discussed before, that how that government can use this educational approach. So I mean, like they can make sure then all this policy happening, because if they have policy
Yeah.
You can.
Yeah. So first, that Mauro said that it's important that for government also to use this education approach in this kind of thing to make sure that the regulations are happening, the implementation itself is happening. And then the second one that we are also talking about how the integration itself, how the government can integrate the system with the community and other sectors. So it's not only government who work on after they have all of this, they make this policy and everything, but they don't know how to integrate the system. So there is always something missing in the middle and it's not happening. So maybe one more Carl, you can add?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
No. Okay. Sorry. I just put my phone internet, so it will be great. Yeah. I don't know if you mentioned it, Agustina. I'm so sorry, but one of the main challenge that the public sector will be having is how to download to all the people this enforcement, this regulation, because once they have these good practices or this regulation approved, the other 50% or more is how to really get to the people to implement it. And one of these tools that we have is through education. There is actually no other things more powerful than that education.
So green education, I wrote it down, Mauro, here as green education is basis for policies and infrastructure to change. So we're talking about people's power essentially, because if people are educated in sustainability and zero waste things, then they start enforcing governments also to change themselves and change their policies, correct?
Yeah, yes, exactly. Just Steve said it, that most of the change start with the people and they're going escalated to the government.
Exactly.
It's very hard to get the other way around in this particular matter. So that is very, very important that people start giving a step forward and demanding these kind of things.
I think this is an absolutely very good point that you put it out, and I wrote it out like this. It's an escalation mechanisms from grassroots to government. The fact that people have a possibility to influence governments to make changes, because you're right, it usually works this way, that big social change starts from individuals and is escalated up until government changes, feels the pressure and changes their policies.
Exactly, but the pressure itself is a really good instrument, like a tool for that kind of change. And we can discuss a lot of this about the pressure itself. What is a good pressure and what is a bad pressure.
Exactly.
We're going too far on this.
Yeah, let's not go there. But pressure is a good point. Yeah. We can spend 3 hours here talking about different kinds of pressure.
Exactly.
All right. So thank you. I'm going to put you again into rooms in just a second. But now your third and last thing that you have to break your brains about is to look at for instance, pick one. Either, you see, we have quite a few, but let's just try and do one. So what I would say is that group one, how about, I like this one. Let's go positive. So how about you take this one? How can you as an NGO support the private sector to make the change in order to allow people to stop littering? So let's talk about this one. So group one, you will think about all the activities that support this section here. How can you support, how can you through activities support private sector to actually take responsibility for what they produce? We're in the activity level. These are the things that you as an NGO, you as an individual can do. So in the individual part, let's take, which one is the best one? How about, we usually always talk about awareness. So let's take in the individuals, think about all the activities that you can do to make sure that thought leaders are on board, that they are engaged, and that they are actively leading. Because we know a lot of thought leaders, they will, you know, say, oh, today is World Cleanup Day, and then they won't talk about you for 364 days. So how to make sure that they are actually actively engaged, that they are spreading your message, that they are actually being leaders in their community. So this is your task, to come up with activities to make sure that thought leaders are active. Okay. And the third group, which one? Okay, so the pressure part is very controversial. How about green education? Now, usually education is done top down. So the government decides what they teach you at schools, right? So you as an activity group, please try and find out all the activities that that you could do to make sure that the education goes green. Either they are small programs, additions, whatnot. So just come up, brainstorm, what are the activities that you can make sure to make education green. Okay, I'm gonna stop share. And you don't have much time, so no marriage talks. Open all rooms, go. I think everyone's coming back. We're gonna go just 10 minutes over. Hope no one minds, but just in order to be able to wrap up, I think everyone is back on. So I'm gonna share my screen again, and I'm gonna ask, just like we did before, let's fill in what we can. So let's start with private sector, group number one. What can you support? What can you do to support the change in private sector?
Yeah. So we had idea that as an NGO, we can create a ranking and reward system and promote it as something positive, and to put companies in that ranking list. So, yeah.
So it's like a white list. Instead of a blacklist, you would have a white list of companies that are doing the right thing.
Yeah, that's
like
the general.
top 100.
Sorry?
Like
that's
the top 100 of companies who are.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, do you have any other ideas?
Yeah, to give them like a stamp, your green company, go on.
So something like fair trade or eco labels or something like that, right? So something is similar.
Make it as much as important as you can.
Okay, and make it as important as well. Any other ways that, if you didn't get any ideas, I just want to extend this to the larger group. Any other ideas? How can you make sure that private sector is supported in their sort of wish to change?
Yeah, maybe with some kind of less taxes from the government.
Yes, Mauro, but we're now talking about what can an NGO do. We're not talking about the government. Yeah, what can an NGO do to support positive change in private companies?
Okay.
No ideas? Come on, guys.
We were talking also about creating a green club union where companies would be very proud to be included, and where companies could cooperate for buying in cheaper solar panels or anything else, plus having green parties together and sharing wisdoms, and so many levels could be cooperated and also feeling important and proud.
I think this is a very good point, because going sustainable means a very significant change in your habitual way of doing business, and it is very big cost. So creating this kind of like a green club that helps maybe whole sectors, maybe just a part of a sector to get a better practices, support each other, and maybe create a unified recycling system. So I think this is a very, very good point. So to go sustainable.
Monica from Uruguay said that this B company, like the seal B company, or that like kind of category from the companies, that if you are a B company, you have been certificated that all your process is environmentally safe, also have a very well degree of sustainability.
That's good, because this is definitely something that NGOs can do, because they have so much knowledge in whatever field it is. They have lots of knowledge, they know stuff about, so they can actually evaluate who is green and who is not green. Maybe that's not, we can't trust the governments very often because of the lobby that happens in the background, so we can't really trust them. So NGOs play a really important role here. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the individuals. So how can we make thought leaders active in spreading the message? Group number 2. Claudia, you have to take over again.
I'll try. We talked about like having things that are like, for example, a nice slogan or attractive communication materials that thought leaders are kind of proud to use and to feel that they're part of something that they're wanting to be part of.
So you make yourself sexy. Sorry if I use this. If you make yourself sexy to thought leaders, so that they don't think that you are, you know, just another NGO that wants something out of me, but they actually get attracted to your idea.
Maybe even more than that, that they are actually happy to use, for example, a slogan and to associate themselves in terms of like kind of spreading the message and with the help of that type of communication.
How would you go along and achieve that? How would you make them proud?
Well, I guess it would start with actually understanding the audience.
Awesome. This is such a great insight. You have to understand the audience that they speak to. So when we're talking about a religious group or church, any kind of, I'm not talking about cults, but I'm talking about churches, about big religions, you have to understand their audience, because when we're talking about any kind of influencers, they are always thinking about who listens to me. So this is an excellent point, and I'm so glad you arrived to that. Anything else?
Yeah, we had a couple others, and I'm not really sure I can really do justice to the points. I have for my notes right now and my memory. One was as well to have leaders be part of the core team or the core group of initiatives, so that they're not only at the sidelines but kind of really involved.
You actually involve them, yes. You don't use them as a resource, but you include them from the early start and make sure that they are committed to your cause by including them. Awesome. My colleagues are saying, shut up, you're too loud. I know, I should have been at home to do this. So, all right, that's great. Let's move on to the toughest of the toughest. But I know that the group has done it honors. So what are the things that we could make sure to do that there is such a thing as green education available?
So we're going to talk about litter education more than green education, because that's a subset. And basically what we'd want to do is to have World Cleanup Day and the associated nonprofits come up with a common curricula or common concepts for litter prevention or litter education. And then those would be then pulled down through the nonprofits and NGOs that do litter pickups and cleanups as for them to adopt, because they're not doing this on a full-time basis. It's 10%, 20%, 30%. So essentially we're talking around the world in one voice, having kind of a common curricula, and then that would be able to bring it to the the governments, so that then the educational authorities can get that into a formal curricula.
Justin, this is a good point. It's very precise. It gives you very clear thing that you can do. But how would you execute that? How would you get that to the government? What would you have to do to make sure that it reaches the government?
So the first thing you got to do is have a national cleanup plan. And then the second thing you have to do is have a litter education plan. So, you know, that's
so
a
you have to be
national-
you're actually true, because we said you need to create an educational curricula, because you can't rely on, you know, pick up trash forever. But I think this is a great point, because legitimacy comes from things that you do, not what you say. So
Yeah.
you have to have a national cleanup plan that supports your education and vice versa. So they go hand in hand. And that makes you more reliable partner to government as well. They see that you're not just someone who talks, you actually do as well. And hence your word can be believed. And I believe that's a great way to continue. Now, we have only 2 minutes left. I've taken up your time. I hope this has been interesting. Now, if we zoom out, we actually have a core plan. We could start executing this immediately, but not just yet. Because part of theory of change, obviously, is also how to measure it. So we can't do this today. Usually theory of change is done at least 3 or 4 sessions. Sometimes it takes months. It depends on what you're after, obviously, but it can take months. It can take a lot of hard work from lots of different people. But as you can see, we have moved backwards from a really big goal of people not littering, and we already have practical things that we can do. The next step in theory of change would be that we would work out key performance indexes, or how do we measure that our activities actually influence the change. But this is something that we won't get into today, and this is the phase that you would absolutely have to do several things. You would have to make sure that whatever you claim to achieve is supported by academic literature. So you have to read articles, you have to get in touch with the professionals who work in that field, and you develop your key performance indexes. Now, Let's Do It World uses their annual questionnaire each year to measure this. We also use, because we are mostly about creating awareness, that means that we use a lot of media reach analysis, etc., etc. So there are lots of different components here, and we can never get into that in such a short time. But as you can see, we can be really proud of ourselves, because tonight we already have very clear things that we can do to make sure that people don't litter. And I would love to continue developing this. Maybe we should actually create a core group at some point of people interested and go further with this plan, and then to actually bring it to the end, because this is an important part. How do you change people's behavior? Go ahead, Mauro. I see you want to say something.
No, yes, that is what you mentioned. It's really important, because maybe a lot of people here want to really be behind the policy strategy and to create one. Mm-hmm. And Let's Do It World is a platform, global platform, to also implement this kind of things, this kind of strategy, and learning a little bit more about the theory of change really come. And one of the things is that actually to open our eyes and see how can I be part of the change, not only performing cleanup activity, but also be with stakeholders, and how can I help them to implement mm-hmm. their policy.
Exactly.
Okay, that is very, very, very important to us also.
Absolutely. And if there are any questions, we have to finish because the room needs to open for next session. I will drop my email. If you have any questions, we can continue this. If you are interested in the litter and the waste issues, want to be really part of developing this, I would propose that you get in touch and we will figure something out and we will change the world.
Exactly, Ingrid.